What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Before I begin, I want to say thank you so much to each and every single one of you for helping this channel to grow. And my, oh my, has this channel grown in the past 2 weeks. Thank you so much to all the new subscribers. You folks are awesome. Friends, family, neighbors, YouTube subscribers, supporters, viewers, eBay customers, everybody across the board. You are all amazing. If you like what you see and you enjoy the content, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, comment in the comment section below, hit the bell to receive notifications. Also, I have an eBay store called the Carolina Collector 001. The link is in the description box below of every video and short that I upload here on YouTube, where I'm selling baseball cards and various other items from time to time. I did relist a whole bunch of baseball cards for auction, and at the time of this video, I had 2 big eBay sales. I got your orders out today, so thank you so much, everybody. I have not been feeling too good the past couple days because we are hitting straight 90-degree temperatures all over again, and my body is not reacting kindly to it. But anyway, besides all that, if you want to help donate to the channel, click on my coffee link in the description box below. Anything helps. Thank you to those that have done so already. So with all of that out of the way, say that 10 times fast. And don't forget, I don't rehearse my videos or anything, or I don't come with a script. Everything's off the top of my head. So I pretty much have all of this down packed in a few different forms or another. It's pretty much the same shtick. But anyway, most of you will recognize what I'm about to say if you're in the Transformers fandom. In particular, if you're a G1er like myself who grew up with the franchise. Truck, not monkey. And why do I say that? And what's this video going to be all about? Just that. There seems to be a certain loathing, resentment, and almost borderline hatred for the Beast Wars Transformers line. And I have a few theories as to why that is. Again, I am a child of the 80s. I'm almost 50 years old at this point. I grew up with this stuff. You know, I grew up with Transformers, G.I. Joe, Voltron, Transformers, Thundercats, Pee-wee's Playhouse, Galaxy High, Snorks, Smurfs. You name it, I grew up with it. You know, my sister's just old enough to remember what Strawberry Shortcake and Care Bears and Gem is and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, as far as us boys are concerned, even some of you girls out there grew up with the original G1 Transformers. But we were little kids. We had to be anywhere between 6 to 12 years old at that time. I'm just throwing numbers out there. But, you know, we were entrenched in 80s shows that were based off of toys, or 80s toys that were based off of shows. You know, in some cases, the toys were made first. Then they created the shows, or the shows came out, and then they made the toys later on. But in effect, basically all these cartoons were just glorified toy commercials to convince us kids to hound our parents to buy us these toys. And they did a good job of it, because I know I'm one of many of you who had a pretty extensive He-Man, Transformers, Voltron. Well, they only had the 2 Voltrons. The 3rd Voltron doesn't really count, the 3-piece Voltron, but that's another video for another time. You know which one I'm talking about. But anyway, you had the Vehicle Voltron and Lionbot. You know, you had Thundercats, all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. They were just glorified toy commercials. That's really what they were. But man, did we gobble that stuff up. And I, like many of you, had a lot of Transformers toys. Just like my brother and myself collectively had a lot of G.I. Joes and He-Man figures, what have you. And then we started growing up and our tastes began to change. Once you were past like the age of 16 and older, you got your first keys to your house or your apartment. Your parents trusted you more. You were learning how to drive. You got your learner's permit. You got your worker's permit. So that this way at the age of 16, you can go get a small job at the corner store or something like that. So the priorities are changing. And we all started growing up. And then all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, a franchise that none of us really recognized, even though these things were transforming from one form to another, all of a sudden came out of the clear blue. We were not too pleased with that. We're talking about Beast Wars Transformers. Yes, I understand if it was not for Beast Wars Transformers saving a dying franchise, we would not have Transformers today. Fine. But I just want to talk about the effect of what Beast Wars had on a lot of G1ers at that time. And you have to realize, it's something I found out the hard way, was how protective the fan base of G1 Transformers really is. And in a lot of ways, I applaud the way the fans protect the franchise, because if you watch Star Wars or the Marvel MCU or even the DC universe, it's been and I'm going to try not to get too political here. I just want to focus on the franchise in and of itself. It's been inundated with politics and certain groups of fans claiming ownership over something that's supposed to be for everyone, because of the politics now being preached and rubbed in our faces and injected. When I see Transformers using pronouns, that's not what Transformers is about. It's about good storytelling. This is why Star Wars, Star Trek, and a lot of these MCU, I guess you want to talk about subcategories, and these TV shows on, I guess, Netflix or wherever the fuck they're showing them. I don't watch them. I don't care. This is why I didn't care about Star Trek Section 31, why I don't care about Strange New Worlds. With the exception of Season 3 of Star Trek Picard, I didn't care about Star Trek Picard, because at least with Star Trek Picard, the third season was all about the story and giving us original Trek fans what we were asking for. It was cleaning up the mess from back in the 80s and 90s to give us the Trek we never got. Because all these franchises do now is preach politics and tell us what we should be doing and who we should accept and who we should include because of inclusion, diversity, equity, inclusion. Fuck you. If you're a weirdo, you're a weirdo. If you're spooky, you're spooky. All right, that's just the way it was in the kids' handball court back in elementary school. If we thought you were strange and spooky, hey, I was beat up a lot as a kid. You know, I'm not going to lie. I got bullied a lot. Look how I turned out. I know the trolls are going to microanalyze that and try to make something out of it, because that's what they do. But I'm an adult now. I don't give a fuck. Simple point being is that when Beast Wars Transformers came out, and us young kids at that time who grew up with the franchise were teenagers, we took a look at it. We were like, what the hell is that? Facebook has now acknowledged that, because I signed up with several Facebook groups of G1 Transformers fans, and I was shocked to learn how much animosity there really is against Beast Wars Transformers, and rightfully so. It should be about a good story and not changing these characters into something that they are not. You know, they're not black, they're not gay, they're not fat. Stop it already. We want a good story. And G1 Transformers were all about make-believe robots that transformed into some machine or some kind of mechanical robot or another, or mechanical animal or another, like the Dinobots or the Insecticons. And it was all about a good, fun story. But then when Beast Wars came along, they were organic robots. This is not Optimus Prime. This is Optimus Primal, a completely, totally new robot with organic skin and organic hair. And the bizarre thing about Beast Wars is they injected religion into it. And it was a prequel and a sequel at the same time, trying to build upon something that was well established in the G1 cartoons. In some ways it worked, in some ways it didn't. It didn't, because, well, look, he's got the face of Optimus Prime, but he is not Optimus Prime. It was such a departure from what we grew up with as grown adults to this day. A lot of us are kind of like, okay, that's not Transformers, not our Transformers. And yeah, we are protective over it, because look what's happening. Again, I hate to inject politics into this discussion, but I believe it's merited, because everything now has to be political. Everything has to be about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be. It's a make-believe, made-up franchise about things that turn into other things. And I'm not talking about that kind of trans. I'm talking about robots turning into trucks, automobiles, airplanes, and robot dinosaurs and insects and weapons of some type. That's not what they meant by Transformers, okay, folks? There were no black robots, there were no white robots, there were no gay robots. There were some feminine robots, yes, but it was all about a good story. It had nothing to do with religion and belief and all this crap, you know. But then this comes along, and I don't want to hear about Rodimus Prime taking a journey into the Matrix, talking about past leaders and all that stuff. That's really not religion. That's reminiscing and learning history. So don't even try to twist that around, because I know somebody out there is going to try to throw that at me. But this was not our Transformers. This was nothing like our Transformers. See, you had a wide range of characters in G1 Transformers, to the point, again, it was essentially a toy commercial in disguise. Whereas with Beast Wars, not only did they shrink down the size of the characters according to myth and dogma and lore, that there was a great upgrade from Autobot to Maximal, Decepticon to Predacon. where, you know, having a smaller body reduced the amount of energy that these robots use, so therefore they all became maximal. Which is subtext for climate change, at least in my opinion, which is fucking dumb in and of itself anyway. But to have organic robots, especially when it came to Beast Machines, and that thing is one sorry-ass TV show, by the way. I'm not even going to start with that. But, you know, this is not Optimus Prime. This is Optimus Primal. It's a parody of the Optimus Prime that I grew up with, and many of you grew up with. Now, there might have been some good episodes. It's just a thought and idea of turning our franchise into this and injecting religion into it in some form or another. It just, you know, with Sparks, like Sparks, the idea of having a spark in a TV show, it wasn't there in G1. Basically, it was implying some sort of religion when it comes to these robots in this franchise, especially with Dinobot going into self-sacrifice mode in Beast Wars. That was kind of a good story because it really showed, you know, you can redeem yourself and go from being evil to good and, you know, doing something that's meaningful, you know, and some people will take that idea to the ultimate extent and sacrifice themselves for the greater good. And Dinobot did that. And that actually is a fantastic story and probably one of the only stories I truly enjoy in Beast Wars. But it is not G1 Transformers. And the character list, the amount of characters that they had per episode was the same, you know, 5 or 6 characters per episode all the time, every time, with the same backdrops, it was the same thing over and over and over again, just told from different points of view. They tried to make stories out of it, and they tried to tie it in badly when they brought in Unicron, they brought in the Ark, they brought in, you know, Megatron trying to swipe the G1 Megatron Spark, which is ridiculous. I mean, blowing up Optimus Prime's head. I mean, just all this stuff trying to tie it into G1 and to make it into a prequel and sequel all at once. It was absurd and confusing and weird and ridiculous. And I think that's where a lot of this animosity comes from. They were trying to make it into something that it wasn't. And then when they went into Beast Machines with no weapons, basically it was a cartoon for hippies, you know, talking about transorganics or whatever they called it. Again, I'm not even going down that road because that TV show was just completely off the rails and bizarre. But with that being said, the animosity that I see towards Beast Wars, I have not been on Facebook in a long time. I got booted out of a group. Well, not really booted. I got banned temporarily from posting, and I messaged one of the admins. And one of the admins was pretty cool about it. It's like, it's because you posted something about Beast Wars. I was like, really? And then, you know, basically I had to go through, and it's just crazy. Like, you have to have an application now to join a Facebook group. It's bizarre. It's very weird. But I kind of understand this in a way because, you know, when you get into these arguments, which Transformers is better? The Bayverse, you know, Robots in Disguise, Beast Wars, Beast Machines, you know, it can start fights. And the admins pretty much probably don't have the time to sit there and referee all this stuff. So I can understand why they want that particular group to be focused on that one particular genre. And there are a lot of G1 fan groups out there. But if you even mention Beast Wars to them, they're like, oh, banned, blocked, temporary ban. And rightfully so, because it does cause arguments, because the simple fact of the matter is it's not G1. It was trying to be G1. And again, I'll give credit where credit is due. It was trying to rescue a dying franchise. I mean, you know, think about the Generations 2, for example. That was a rehash of G1 when they brought Megastorm in from Beast Wars 2nd in Japan. Megastorm was the green tank, if you ever seen Beast Wars 2nd. And a lot of those characters never showed up on screen in our version of Beast Wars or Beast Machines. Those are Japanese-only characters. Tasmanian Kid and a few others were all Japanese exclusive characters to Beast Wars 2nd, like Lio Convoy. But a lot of those characters, like Starscream and BB, were renamed. I forgot what the name of those particular two robots were when they came over into the G2 market. But a lot of them came over here as Generation 2, but they never showed up in the G1 cartoon, so even they could be panned a little bit. With the exception of the rehash of the original characters, like the Optimus Prime with the black trailer and the little robot voice box that would say, I am Optimus Prime. Megastorm was not Megatron. He was a completely separate character. But they brought him over just to fill in the gap because obviously with the stupid gun rules and gun laws we got, they can no longer manufacture a Walter P-38 here. I'm sure, well, they already got around that because I have a bootleg of him sitting right there on my collector's shelf. Many of you have seen that on the channel. Maybe some of you own that bootleg that they reissued, that somebody out there reissued. Sooner or later, I mean, well, then again, Japan through Takara and eHobby back in the day, which I have the D16 Special sitting right there, they already have reissued G1 Megatron in the Japanese market. And I'm sure they'll do it again and again. Oh, I hope Missing Link comes out. Boy, oh boy, I am going to get first in line on that one, folks. Excuse me. But anyway, it was just such a departure. And just like with old school Star Wars fans that were pissed off in the direction that Star Wars went off at, same thing with the old school Star Trek fans, the direction that Star Trek went off on. The MCU, the DC Universe, the way these characters are being portrayed as being gay or black, and they put the skin color and who they want to have sex with and who they fascinate about or fantasize about having sex with. No, it's about your superpower, who you can save, and a good fucking story. All of that other stuff doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter. What matters is a good story, and all that stuff needs to go away. You know, I don't care, like RC, for example, great character in G1. I don't care if RC was a female. The character was amazing, and we finally got an RC. I've got the Missing Link animated version up on my collector's shelf right there. Great character, very happy to have it in my collection. And we never got that as a kid. Hey, whatever. It is what it is. I got no problem with those type of characters, but don't make it more into what it needs to be. Give us a good story, give us good characters, period. And that's why I believe a lot of G1 fans protect the franchise and try to keep stuff like this out of it. Even though this is a Transformer, yes it is. Unfortunately, they named them Optimus Prime. It's here, it exists. But it's not G1. And it'll never be G1. Don't try to make something into what it's not. You know, these are time-honored franchises. And if it wasn't for guys and girls my age who were introduced to this stuff when we were kids, this stuff would never exist today. That's why Nike Air Jordans are always being reissued and remade. That's why old Adidas jerseys in particular in this World Cup now had the trefoil, not the modern-day version of the Adidas logo. They now had the old-school vintage 70s and 80s trefoil on a lot of their jerseys. You know, some old school classics will never go away. Sometimes it's best to go back to the old school, you know, to refresh our brains. This world and our politics and everything else that goes on with war, disease, and murder, enough is enough, man. We just want escapism. But the simple fact of the matter is, with all of this being said, is that, you know, Beast Wars is a franchise in and of itself. Did it save the Transformers franchise as a whole? Yes. But when it comes to the series in and of itself, it pales in comparison to what G1 was. It was weird. It was completely out of left field, you know, being a CG show. They tried to bring it back to its G1 roots. Fine. But nothing compares to Transformers G1. And if it wasn't for G1, you Bayverse, Robots in Disguise fans, and anybody else that's into the other, you know, subgenres of Transformers, you wouldn't have that stuff. Grandpas like me did it first. Respect the franchise, respect its roots. It's just like Star Wars with gay, lesbian witches, you know, and all that kind of stuff. That you have to have strong female characters. You can do that without rubbing politics in people's face and trying to put out the message. Fuck your message. Nobody cares about the message. You got cool characters and a cool story. We're all for it, man. But then when you have Brie Larson-like characters or nothing but radical pronoun, pro-female, anti-male, you know, feminists, we don't want that kind of stuff in our stories, or in our franchises, I should say. Give us a goddamn good story. And that's what the G1 Transformers did. It was completely original. It was amazing. It was fun, with the exception of Carnage in C minor. I don't understand what that was all about. Well, you'll know what I'm talking about if you go look it up. But then to have the same boring characters over and over and over and over again, with the same backgrounds and the same landscapes and the same music, it was just boring. And then with Beast Machines, oh my goodness, man, that whole thing with our techno-organic life, and basically it was a show for pseudo hippies and all that kind of stuff. it was a show about climate change and all that nonsense. That's really what it was. It was a preachy show talking about no guns, and saving the climate. Does that sound familiar to anybody today in 2026? It should. It's not Transformers, folks. It's a joke. It is what it is. It exists, but it'll never be our time-honored G1 Transformers. Optimus Prime, just like Megatron, in my eyes, will always be a snub-nosed red truck and a Walther P-38. Now, with Transformers Prime and other, I guess you want to say, branches of the franchise, that's okay. Even War for Cybertron. Ugh, I hate War for Cybertron. It was so boring and dismal and depressing, where they all would always talk like this and bob their heads up and down or go, no, boring. It was exciting. This was exciting. It was fun. It was captivating. What happened? What happened? This, to me, was a sanctioned plagiarization of our time-honored franchise, folks. Sorry. I'm G1 all the way, and I'm not apologizing. I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Take care, everybody.